Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and Dominaria's complete and utter lack of quality control, or even really giving a crap at a basic level, despite what, well, production staff says, well, it got me thinking. Is it actually lawsuit worthy? Because I've had vendors sell me products that were like 95% defective, and the only reason I didn't sue them is they're not in America. So this is America. You can sue anybody for anything, right? I mean, you can try, but the judge will throw it out. The answer is no. You have to be very particular, especially if you actually want to win. So let's talk about the NVIDIA GTX 970 lawsuit, because this is the narrowest you're ever going to see, okay? This was just barely won, and by won I mean NVIDIA didn't win. It was class action, which is exactly what a lawsuit against Wizards would have to be. And their argument was that they said this graphics card comes with 4 gigabytes of RAM and it has a 256-bit interface, so 4 lanes of 64-bit. They never outright stated 100% of the RAM is accessible by 100% of the memory channels, while as we found out in court, most people would reasonably assume that. If you say in the specs, here's the RAM, here's the speed you access the RAM at, and that's not true. I mean, that's pretty much what it came down to. So what happened was, I'm sure I'm going to massacre this, but basically 3.5 gigs of the RAM were accessible like in a certain way, in the normal way with the full bits, and then half a gig was reserved, and I think it was only accessible by one 64-bit lane, and it was used by like something else. I think it was like use 4 or something else, like video playback or some power saving mode. I don't know. It just basically, if you were playing a game, the game could not use 4 gigs at that speed, at that effective clock, as they say. So after months, if not a year or more in court, they finally determined, yes, you owe everybody who bought one of these $50. And the card usually costs about $325-ish on a good day. So that makes sense. It wasn't like, oh, everybody gets their money back, it's disastrous. I still got a working product. It's just a little tiny bit slower and less usable than I thought. And a lot of the people who participated in the class action were still like, oh, who cares? 3.5 gigs, who cares? But, you know, back then, yeah, what the hell game actually used 4 gigs? But, you know, the way that Windows 10 works, the way that modern drivers work, the way that new, whatever frameworks, whatever you call them, work, like Vulkan. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of pissed that I have a 3.5 gig card, especially when like an RX 580 is usually 8 gigs, or at least 4. I mean, a very, very equivalent GTX 1060 is 6, and it uses all 6. So that was, I'm telling you one thing as a company, here's the product, and then 100% of the people who bought one got something different. Now, it's not necessarily fraudulent. I don't know if there was criminal charges. They just kept it civil. It could have been fraud, but that would be really hard to prove. I mean, they presented it as a feature or something, and it is the way that the card was designed. I think they even said that in certain articles they explained that, but it was definitely deemed to be misleading. It was misrepresenting the product to the vast majority of people in most places that you would buy it. So that's the absolute bare minimum that somebody could get Wizards with in a class action. So here's the problem. Okay, somebody sells you a volleyball, and you bought 12 of them or whatever, and they all start leaking and going flat within 3 months. It's just some cheap generic garbage brand. You're like, well, that's ridiculous. I would have expected more out of it. Well, actually, let's say 6 of them started being defective over a very short period of time. Oh, well, you're disappointed with the performance. I mean, it was implied that it would last longer than that, right? No. Was it stated that? No. Did they ever state this will last this long? No. Did the product cause anything hazardous to your health or any kind of distinct losses due to a misrepresentation? No. And then you're really in trouble if they offered a 1-year warranty and you can just mail them in and get a replacement from the company. Then there's your recourse in case something goes wrong. They never said on the box, guaranteed to have less than 50% of these stay inflated for more than a year. There was nothing that clearly stated that. And you could say, well, it's implied that it would last longer than that. Yeah, maybe to you, but it wasn't. It was not stated, and it really honestly wasn't even implied. Now, if 100% of them were defective, that might be interesting, because that's not just, it's not reliable, it's not a good product, whatever. It's like they are selling you something that 100% of the time was bad. That's almost like product recall level. I mean, it's not a health and safety thing. But then, even in that case of a 100% failure rate over a suspiciously short amount of time, which they, once again, never set a time frame on that, If they said, hey, if one of them goes defective, mail it in, you wouldn't have much of a case, but is it a ridiculously high burden if 100% of them failed and you had to ship them all in, pay shipping on it, and, now your volleyball team can't practice, which is like, okay, now you've got reasonable losses incurred. Maybe the members of your volleyball team are asking for their fee back for joining your team or whatever, or, you run like a YMCA and now you're getting complaints and having to do partial refunds on the monthly, subscription or whatever, actual incurred damages. And is there an expectation that not 100% would fail? Okay. And is it an undue burden that you had to send in 100% of them? I think that would fly in court, but it would be very, very close and not guaranteed to win. So that's a little bit different because they never said stays inflated forever or absolutely guaranteed indestructible or, any of that. None of that would have been on the label. So it's just, okay, it's a bad brand, whatever. It lasted 3 months. Did they ever say it wouldn't? So let's jump over to Wizards of the Coast. Okay, what could we get them with now? Because they're screwing everything up. Okay, first of all, could they be sued in the state of Washington, specifically Seattle, for only hiring or artificially inflating their hiring numbers for females, minorities, and LGBT people? Hell yes. Yes, they could, and they would lose in probably a week. They would get destroyed in court if somebody brought that up. It's provable. The staff have made statements about who they're trying to hire. Their hiring practices, from what I've heard and the hearsay and the rumors, so, okay, take that with a grain of salt, is 100% illegal. It is discriminatory. It's not legal in the United States or in Washington. They have actively said they do not want white males working there. Too many work there. They're not going to hire any more in roundabout ways. And, were they actually speaking personally or on behalf of the company? It's shaky, but they've made statements either hinting at it or outright stating it. So yes, they would get obliterated in court. They stand a 0% chance of winning if somebody sued them for that. They would owe every applicant for the last 10 years money. And I mean, we're talking partial wages for a year level money. So that's one that they wouldn't win. Two, the reserve list. Not touching it, already made a video on it. I think they would get sued and it would be shaky whether they win or lose. It's was it really a contract? Were the people even over 18? Was it a guarantee? They already went back on it once and nobody complained, which is true. They took cards off the list and nobody sued them then. So did they lose their opportunity? Is it implied consent? It's a whole nightmare. It's a gray area. It's not 100%. Either way would win. So cards curling. Okay, here's the problem. Did they ever state that these cards would absolutely be playable? And did they say specifically that they would not curl? So no, they've never said that they wouldn't curl. I think they've actually said the opposite. Now, did they make statements saying that the cards that you buy will be playable? Kind of. I mean, they never explicitly said, we guarantee every last card that you take out of every booster will be playable. Not miscut, misprinted, unreadable, whatever. But I mean, you could very much prove in court that that's implied. That they never said, oh, please build in an acceptable defect rate for our cards. They might not all be playable on a competitive format. And remember, competitive is a different thing. It's almost on you to keep them in that condition. If you were to sleeve a foil card right away and keep it at a very neutral humidity, it actually won't curl. So since that's a known fact, it's not like they told people that, but it's a known fact, it's on you to make them not curl at that point. Or, I mean, did they ever say that premium cards are guaranteed to be playable on a competitive level and wouldn't be considered marked for curling? No, they've pretty much said the opposite. At least, the judge program has said on multiple occasions that it might be too curled and might not be legal to play with. So I don't really think there's anything there. I mean, the curling problem, they never said that they wouldn't curl. I mean, if they explicitly said we guarantee these won't curl, then we've got a problem. But keep in mind, at the end of the day, this is the anti-lawsuit magic cloak that just shields them from any kind of litigation. Well, I mean, you can still sue them just as you would lose. You can send in any misprinted or defective cards, over curling cards, whatever, to Wizards and get replacements. Now, here's where I think that would be a problem. They're going to send you the same damn paper that has the same curling problem. It's not like they have a whole bunch of properly printed cards on proper paper that don't curl, and we're talking non-foils at this point. And that's what they're going to send you. They're going to send you the ones with the exact same defect. That's where they run into problem. If they sent you defective one after defective one after defective one, it's clear that they're incapable of sending you one that doesn't have the defect that they said that they're warrantying against. Now, a miscut or misprinted, smudged, double printed, underprinted, light printed, whatever, wrong color, missing a color, yellow splash, all the different defects, they could send you one that does not have that pretty easily, duh. But the curling problem, that's where their replacement program, I mean, they basically can't replace it. If that's what happens to it, they're incapable of replacing it with one that doesn't do that. I'd say under dry air, it seems to be. Any place that's really dry. A lot of people around Florida and Texas say it doesn't happen, but then again, people with 100% humidity in like Florida and Georgia said those do curl. But then in Wisconsin, I've seen them curl almost exclusively when the humidity drops below like 30%. So, I mean, first of all, could we prove that curled cards are unplayable? Yes, easily. Could we prove that they said that they'll never curl? No, they've never said that. Could we prove that they very heavily implied that if you open cards, you can actually play with them at a competitive level? Because remember, well, then again, at casual level, you could say, I can't play with these. I'm using cards from, I don't know, M14, and those don't curl, and then these do. So if I put them in a deck together for a casual, just playing kitchen table, it's still a defective product. I can't use it. And an F&M, certainly a heavily curled card, you absolutely could not use that, and don't even think about showing up to a GP or Pro Tour with it. So across the board, you could say it's not playable, and that Wizards implied that when you buy these, you can play with them. But then you get into what would be an expected reasonable amount of time that a card in the open air would be expected to not curl for. How long would it stay playable? Because remember, let's say they didn't put an oleophobic coating, which keeps finger oil off the cards, and finger oil just destroyed the cards within 2 weeks. Remember, there's these things called, sleeves. They're sold separately, not by Wizards, but if you were to sleeve it, the oil wouldn't destroy the card. So if you have oily fingers and you touch the cards, and they only last 2 weeks, which, like I said, they have a coating, it wouldn't do that. But if they didn't, well, then what? I mean, would that be enough? Or is it on you to keep them clean or to play with gloves on if you want them in pristine condition or whatever? I mean, what would be the average customer anticipated use time period of a trading card? And good luck proving that. I mean, what are you going to do? Take a survey of 1,000 people and they'll say, I don't know, 6 months, a year. And then you're like, well, these curved after 5 minutes. And that's the other thing. They will curve within like an hour under the right conditions. I think you could prove an hour is a little bit short. That you really, that's almost not even time to play one game and shuffle. Like by the time the deck is built and you've got them in piles and you got it, they could be curled. I mean, my cards were starting to curl at the pre-release before I got them in the damn sleeves, okay? I think we could get them there. So overall, all things considered, it would be a very not cut and dry lawsuit, but I think it could win. Now let's talk about the other stuff. Okay, so you got a whole bunch of miscuts, a whole bunch of misprints. Like, you guys saw the boxes that were opening on stream. It was about 50% of the uncommons were smudge printed or ultra dark printed or like double printed or whatever it is. The top text, the title, and some of the text box was either like the paper moved while it was getting printed or they ran it through twice or so. I don't know. It's just way darker and it's slightly smudged. A 50% defect rate, I think, would be seen by the courts as ridiculous. Now, the other problem, though, is those would still be legal for tournament play. They are still readable. So is it defective or is it just not up to my personal standards? And then you go back to, okay, where did Wizards ever assure you, they guaranteed you that the cards will be in pristine, perfect printing condition? Or did they just kind of unofficially imply that you'll at least be able to read the card and play with it? I think the second. They've never made assurances to the quality, and if they did, it's literally in the same paragraph as, and if you're not happy with a misprint or whatever, you think they're misprinted, miscut, send them in, we'll replace them for free. So really the only argument you would have there is it's an undue burden, it's unnecessary, or the amount of time is ridiculous, for the warranty on the cards, or the postage is too ridiculous, or you shouldn't be sending in 50% of your uncommons. That's way too high. Would the court go for that? Maybe. It's not an absolute yes, but it's not for sure no. And there's no Department of Weights and Measures for trading card game quality, okay? If you're selling a beer that says 6% alcohol and it actually tests at 4%, oh my God, is the law going to come down on you in America? In China, that's basically to be expected, by the way. But in America, yeah. ATF, baby, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, they are gonna just come down on you like you wouldn't believe. Well, especially if they said 4% and it was 6, that's super illegal. That's against specific rules because it's kind of a controlled substance. I'm sure that's not quite the correct term for it. But like you could kill somebody with that. Like there's reasons you have to label it correctly. Alcoholic beverages have to be held to an exacting standard because it's dangerous if they're not. If you picked up, I don't know, some kind of medication for some condition and it's supposed to have 90 pills in it and it has 85 because, oops, they made a mistake and counted wrong, that could harm somebody's health or kill them. They are going to get sued instantly for something like that. But, oh no, my card's unreadable and misprinted. Oh no, it's cut wrong and I can barely read it. Oh no, it's curling and I can't play with it. Like, so what? There's no ruling body. There's no FTA. There's no ATF for these types of products. They're not important enough. They're not dangerous enough. I mean, even like cars and electronics, there's a little bit of oversight there for like safety issues and stuff, but this isn't a safety issue. It's just like, oh, I got ripped off. I'm not getting the product that I think I was supposed to get. Lower quality or less durable than I was expecting. And then they'll just shift it. Well, that's on you. I mean, it is what it is. Like we have a 5% defect rate or whatever. It is what it is. That's what it always has been. And we still have a replacement program. Like you're the one complaining. It's not our fault. And it's an undue burden to us to ensure that 100% of the cards that go out are perfect. So the whole curling thing, everybody keeps saying class action. It's crap quality, class action. It's a little more complicated. I think I've shown both sides of this. It would be very gray area. And even if somebody did a fundraiser for it, and got $1 million and the best lawyers in the world, I'm pretty sure Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast have some pretty damn good lawyers too. So, good luck. It would be a hell of a battle. They would delay it until, the other side ran out of funds and all these legal tactics, and it's a mess. It's basically like going to war. So is there anything else that's cut and dry other than their ridiculous hiring practices and constant discrimination against majority groups based on the color of their skin? And oh my God, don't even get me started on religion. And political affiliations, which actually is legal in Wisconsin, but I don't know about Washington. I think it might not be. In Wisconsin, you could literally go to a job interview and the person could say, are you a Democrat or Republican? And if you say Democrat, they could not hire you, and that's legal. But if you say, oh, sorry, we don't hire women or people above 50, no, you're getting sued. That is massively illegal, but some states do protect political affiliations and any kind of like moral or social leanings or something like that. But is there anything else that Wizards would cut and dry get destroyed in court for? Yes, I do believe so, and it's not absolutely cut and dry, but I'd give it a 75% chance of winning, whereas everything else I mentioned would be like a 50-50 at best. When it comes to Wizards' claims about their products, they purposely stay quiet about it. They're not going to say, we are the top quality or any kind of vague statement, oh, we're the highest quality card game, because then you could say, oh, really? Let me compare the numbers to Yu-Gi-Oh! You're not. That's a misleading statement. I bought a product based on what you said, and it's not true. Give me money. But what has Wizards said? What have they stated? On the actual product pages, we got to go to the WPN website for this. They stated that a pre-release pack contains 6 boosters and 2 promos. They have said that. They have stated that as fact, and I don't think I saw the word might, where it might contain 2 promos. Because let's be honest, it might, or in my case, it might not, though. And it sounds like there's, just from what I heard, dozens of you out there who, at your LGS, either you personally or somebody else, did not get any promos in your pack. And in fact, somebody at mine got 2 dice. I don't even know how the hell that happens. How'd they even close it? Like, legitimately, from an industrial standpoint, how does that happen? How does a person accidentally drop 2 dice in one box and not catch it? Anyway, if a box says it contains 5 of something and it contains 4, you've got an instant lawsuit right there. Now, the thing is, class action lawsuit, legal penalties, let's get a court involved. What if they made one mistake out of 1 million? I mean, you'd never take them to court. I mean, even in small claims, they'd just be like, whatever, you owe them like $4, or you owe them at most the entire cost of a replacement pre-release kit. Honestly, probably just the value difference. Because like I said, I got $50 in that lawsuit about my 970, but I paid about $340 for it. It's not like it wasn't usable. It's not like I didn't kind of get some of what I wanted. But the thing is, okay, one, their replacement policy does not. Well, how are you going to prove it? I mean, I don't really know how to phrase this other than how are you going to prove that when it's already open and it's not sealed that it doesn't have what it's supposed to have? I guess you could put all the pre-release packs on a scale and find the ones that are 2 cards and some plastic light and say, we highly suspect that these are defective before we open them, send them in under warranty, and they'll give you a replacement. But once it's open, it's open. How are they going to prove that you didn't put the damn promos in your pocket and say, oh, I never got any? They can't. So there's no warranty recourse at all. There's nothing you can do. You got a product that is bad. It's wrong. It's not what they told you you're getting. So it's defective. It happened to enough people to make a class action, maybe. I mean, even if the courts see, okay, 1% defect rate, that's our estimation. That's a lot of people and a lot of pre-release kits. And remember, class actions don't have any kind of minimum or maximum or anything for the amount of people that could be included in it. So if you just say, okay, here's the number of people that we can verify with witnesses that did not get a promo. And that's the thing, you'd have to get like affidavits and stuff from everybody who witnessed it. You'd have to get their names. You'd probably have to get the damn thing notarized and stuff. Because how are you going to prove it? I could prove that I bought a 970. I uploaded the receipt to the lawsuit website. Real simple. How am I going to prove that without the signatures of everybody sitting around me that mine was defective? And that's why it would be really hard to build the class. But would they win? Absolutely they would. Now, would they win, 1/5 the cost of a pre-release kit, which is like a couple dollars, barely even worth writing the check? I mean, you'd almost have to do it on moral grounds just to send Wizards a message. I'd just love to see the headline of the bad PR from Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro loses case in court for defective product. Boom! I don't care if I'm going to check for $1. But where you could really destroy them is if everybody, and I mean everybody, agreed, or you had 2 different classes, I'm not sure if this would work, that, okay, I was going to the midnight one. There's only one midnight one. That's the only one I could go to. I got the last kit because it was sold out. We had 40 people and 40 pre-release kits, and then maybe 42 people showed up, and the last 2 were just like, oh, sorry, we don't have enough kits. Oh, well, sorry, Oh, then yours didn't have a promo, and you lost because of it. You had a horrible time, ruined the entire time. The event is irreplaceable. Maybe you drove an hour to get to your LGS to run this event. That time is irreplaceable. The emotional distraughtness and the fact that you went 0-4 because you're missing 2 promos, potentially. I mean, personally, I didn't use my promos, but you could have. Your deck was provably weaker because of it. It's just, did it cause you to, instead of go 4-0, 0-4? But you could say, I'm very sure that I lost because I was short 1 legendary, which that's actually pretty easy to prove. All you've got to believe is you had a worse time because the product was defective and there was no way to replace it. There's nothing that they could do to replace it. I mean, open 2 prize packs and give you the rare and pretend they're your promo. It's still, you don't get the date stamp promos either. That's the other thing. So monetary damages for what you didn't receive, and then emotional damages, loss of opportunity, ruining the event, whatever. If somebody charges $1,000 to be a photographer for a wedding and then they don't show up, they oversleep, whoops, oh well, I didn't show up. You could sue them for the $1,000 or your deposit, I should say. But also, and this has happened, this is why I'm using this as an example, this happens all the time. Now we don't have photos of our wedding at all. No professional photos, none whatsoever. We got a bunch of crappy cell phone pics, that's it. Our wedding is irreplaceable. I've heard of photographers getting sued for like $50,000 and losing because, I mean, duh, it's loss of opportunity, it's emotional distress, it's an irreplaceable event, whatever, all these other legal terms. So tack that on and oh boy, and I mean, the most recent one is the class action against, I guess the Pokemon Company International. No, it would be Niantic, wouldn't it? Over Pokemon Go Fest, they had to compensate people for travel, time, loss, everything. Absolutely everything. Bare minimum travel. If you had to take off of work, I think there's some kind of thing for that. Lost wages, irreplaceable vacation days, etc. But yeah, that's where you could start hitting them hard. And I mean hard, especially if you took a day off of work to go to the midnight pre-release you took off on Saturday or something. And then the whole event was ruined because of a defective product. You could get some money from Wizards. Oh my God. The problem is, it's going to be so impossible to build the class and say, yes, I am verifiably with sufficient legal proof one of the people who didn't get the promos and my LGS didn't replace it, because otherwise your local gaming store would be the one suing Wizards, because mine, they just swapped it out. They just gave me a brand new one. And there you go. Proceeded with my day. I mean, I lost like 3 minutes of deck building time, and I think that actually cost me. But other than that, my local gaming store would say, okay, we got 4 without promos, compensate us. But then they would not have the, emotional damages and blah, 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 the other crap tacked on. So I think they get, $3, $4, $5 and that's it per defective one. And that's all there is to it. So would it be worth it? No. Would a lawyer even bother? No. Would it be possible to build a class? Probably not. But if in a miracle scenario everything went together and came together perfectly, would Wizards lose? I would say almost definitely yes. So since it's never going to happen, it's a fun little fantasy to pretend. I think it would go exactly the way that I'm assessing it because I know a little bit about these sorts of things. It's fun to think that Wizards' product is so bad, so garbage, their quality assurance is so terrible that they would actually owe people monetary compensation for how unbelievably garbage the quality of their products is. And I'm very, very, very certain that they would lose in court over it if it were to go to court. This is what I would call rock bottom, Wizards. You have hit rock bottom. You have hit you're so terrible and so bad that legal action could be taken against you and you would lose. That's where the quality of your product is at right now today. Maybe do something about it. Maybe actually give a crap. Maybe even just with what your company image is, after all your dumbass employees won't shut up on Twitter about all their political views, it's already bad enough. Now you go there and get a bunch of misprinted garbage and your promos are missing. Maybe imitate any other TCG in the freaking world and give a crap enough to make sure that 99.9% of the time your product is at least acceptable, at least not litigiously bad. It is a joke, it is pathetic, and it is an insult to your idiotic way that you print these products and just your quality assurance, everything, your image of your company. I could go on and on and on about how horrifically bad this is for Wizards, their bottom line and their image in the future, but I think you guys get it at this point. So to answer the question, could they lose in court if a class action was brought against them with what they've been doing lately? Yes. I think so, yes. In my opinion, yes. Except for card curling. So that's your fun and uplifting happy video for the day. I'll see you guys next video.